was trying to set up my background.
Have you ever wondering how to use gravity to your advantage, improve your downhill technique, or crush your next downhill marathon? This episode is for you. We'll break down the key strategies for running downhill efficiently, avoiding injury, and maximizing speed on race day. So whether you're looking to shave some minutes off your time or just continuous and curious about the unique challenges of downhill racing, stick around. This is going to be a fast one. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Running Your Best Life podcast. My name is Victor Vizcaíno. I am your host, and with me is my partner in the podcast, my co host, Adele. And with us, we're going to discuss these topics today. So let's get started.
Hi, everybody. So, I have to share something with you. I am not a true downhill runner. I am in South Louisiana. I've run all over the country, but Louisiana is flat. So, when I had to do hill training, it was over overpasses or in a neighborhood in Mississippi. The true knowledge based person that we're going to talk to today is going to be Victor because he's done this many times. So, my big question to Victor, and obviously for everyone else out there, why would you choose to do a downhill race and what would be the best way to approach it?
Awesome. Great question. Great question. The reasons why I've chosen to do some of the downhill races is because I wanted to improve my time in the
Mm,
marathons. Uh, Either I was trying to break a certain time, I think I was trying to break a 3 hour marathon, and also when I was trying to qualify for Boston. And that's what I've heard a lot of people choosing these downhill marathons was for qualifying for the Boston Marathon. Mm,
okay. So the
It is,
gravity is pulling you faster.
yeah, the gravity is doing a lot of the work, and you're allowing that. Uh, it's not as easy as I thought. You can run faster, but it
Mhm.
does take a toll on your quads. The number one thing that I would take from the times that I've done it is you have to definitely train on downhill if you're going to do a downhill marathon. A lot of these downhill marathons will sometimes go down and at the end kind of flatten out. And sometimes
Okay.
by the time you get to the flat, your quads are burning. They're hurt. And now you may, if you ran too fast, the same thing's gonna happen. You're gonna
Mhm.
slow down, way down.
Well, I
Mm.
would think too that just running as many marathons and long distance races that I have that aren't downhill, so to speak, for a consistent amount of miles, just the wear and tear on your body for the distance and the time that you're upright and moving, you're always going to have that fatigue in your quads, your butt muscles, your hamstrings, your knees. You certainly want to protect your heels and your toes, especially in the motion of downhill running. um I would think too that maybe strengthening those through the downhill practicing and then some supplemental exercises would help too. But as far as the injuries to the not the injuries, but the effect on the quads, what what would be the most difficult part of decreasing the amount of tension on the quads? Is there a certain style to run in?
Yes. So number one thing is, of course, practice, practice, practice. Practice is downhill. Next thing is shorten your stride.
Mhm.
That is going to help a great deal because it's so easy to have a long stride on the downhill because you're using gravity. You're practically
Right, right.
jumping. So there is a tendency to land in front of you a lot easier than when you're running on flat.
Okay,
So you
okay,
purposely shorten your stride so that you don't ran too much in front of you. You're still landing closer to your center of gravity. And if you do the shorter stride, that makes it easier to do that, and it eliminates, or not eliminates, but it decreases that pounding or putting on the brake because on some of these races that are very steep, it's
hmm,
pretty much all you're doing is trying to stop yourself from gravity just falling over. So basically, you are just putting the brakes. And if you
Right.
do the short stride, you don't have to pound those brakes so hard. You just
So,
putting a little bit of a brake.
so when you use that comment like braking and striding, when I think about coming down the overpasses or the hills that I've actually run on, especially in a race situation, not just a training situation, so to speak, where I could adjust if I needed to walk or just really take it slow and easy instead of intentionally training how my foot's going to strike. Would the biggest thing be coming downhill? Are when you shorten the stride, are you putting more pressure on that toe area? Or are you still trying to roll the foot in kind of a classic running motion? Because that toe is going to take a lot of abuse.
Yes, there's not as much time to do the roll, so
Okay.
wherever you land, it's gonna pretty come up pretty quick because you're doing the
o-
short stride. So if you're landing somewhat on midsole, you're still not heel striking.
Okay.
Uh, your toes do tend to want to crash into your shoe.
Okay.
One of the things that I do is I'll put these toe protectors. You
Mm,
can order them on Amazon. They have different materials, but I like the ones that are made out of silicone. So you
okay.
put these toe protectors to protect your toes, and I just usually use it on the toe that sticks out the most because that's the one that hits. I'll
Yeah.
put those. I'll also use the technique of lacing my shoes in what's called a heel lock. And if you
Okay.
go to any of the shoe stores or if you pull up a YouTube video on how to lace up your shoes for this, it'll show you the proper way to lace to get the heel to push more forward, so it doesn't allow a lot of movement of your foot inside the
Okay.
shoe. So
Well,
those are little things that will help with that.
yeah, and that's what I'm thinking about because with the when you say it, like a toe protector, the silicone that's also going to probably help with blistering, right? Because you want to have a good
Absolutely.
pair of socks as well with some cushioning, probably in the toe area. You just don't want them over thick because they are going to be pushing quite a bit. And you and I both know, and anyone who really has been an experienced runner, regardless of the distance or the time that you're running, but you're training in a running shoe, you know your foot is always going to slip, whether you're flat or not. You always, and we've said this before, you always want to get that half size larger in your running shoes because your foot is going to move inside your shoe a little bit. Your socks, everything's going to start sweating. So you want to have, those wicker, those cotton or the sweat wicking socks. And with these heat, with the toe, with the heel protectors, but especially with the toe protectors, if you use a silicone, just remember you're going to be putting a sock over that and you're going to be thickening what's inside your shoe. So when you strike it going downhill, it's going to take a little bit more pressure. So what Victor's suggesting is make sure you protect those toes as best you can because you
Yes.
may lose a toenail, you may get bruising. Obviously, you get the black toe or the hammer toe. But I think one of the biggest things is just really protect it. Now, one of the other things that I might consider too, Victor, and you can follow up on this with me. When you look at the shoes for running this kind of race, do you look at sometimes a trail shoe, or do you look at that might have a
Yes.
wider toe box and maybe a little bit more gripping in the bottom of the sole of the shoe, the outer sole of the shoe?
I think the main thing is going to be that it has a lot of cushion,
Okay,
but you are going to have a different shoe for trail than you are for the cement. And
right.
this is where going to your local running store, specialty store like Fleet Feet,
Hmm.
they do a great job at accommodating the shoe that you're going to use it for. So if you go there and you say, I'm getting ready to run a downhill race, they'll have some really good recommendations of which shoe, on top of scanning your feet and getting you the
Right.
proper fit, also recommend a special shoe for downhill. And it's going to be one that has the most cushion because we do tend to do a little bit more of heel striking when you're doing downhill.
Hmm.
So there is some shoes that have extra cushion on the heel part, and that's gonna help a great deal.
I think too, one of the biggest things I would think of too is the cushioning would also be not only inside your inner sole, but on the outer sole, but it'll also have a gripping kind of surface to the bottom of the shoe. Wouldn't you think? Like a traction
Yeah.
kind of, if it's a trail
Uh,
type shoe.
for the trail. The trail
Okay.
more than anything would have one of the traction for that. On the other one, you don't need the traction unless you're going to do be on the snow or
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
like
right.
that. But hopefully not. Hope you don't have ice. There is one thing about some of the races that I've done that's usually been the Revel. That's a
Mhm.
brand of marathons, and what
Okay.
they do is they'll take you up to the top of the mountain, and it's usually a cold mountain. You know, most of the ones that I've done have snow up at the top.
Okay.
So that's another thing that you want to really research the race that you're doing
Mhm.
prior to, because like the one in Vegas, for example, Charleston, I think it's Charleston Marathon, Rebel Marathon,
Okay.
where they take you up and it's freezing up at the top. By the time you get to the bottom, it's actually hot.
Okay.
So you're gonna take people take whatever they're gonna wear at the beginning and then toss it
Right.
a couple miles once you warm up, because it is freezing cold. Sometimes it's windy, and and you're up there for a while. Sometimes
Right.
you're waiting for an hour because they bus you there.
Okay.
So they'll drop you off there. You'll be out in the freezing cold with the wind. You want to be bundled up, and a lot of stuff that you can donate to the Goodwill, because once you
Right.
toss it, it goes to Goodwill. And
Right.
people
Right.
leave scarves, they leave beanies, because I was super cold. It's with the wind, it's incredible how cold you can get, and you don't want to waste energy because you're trying to stay warm. You want to just stay warm and comfortable,
Yeah.
and then as soon as you start running, uh, throw those layers off.
You know, it's
Mm,
funny you're saying that because for those of you who know that I'm in Louisiana, we had snow last week. I mean, really 7, 8 inches of powdered snow outside my house in Louisiana. It's a lifetime, once a lifetime event for a lot of people.
yeah.
But I have run in snow. I've run up in New York in snow. I've run in several places in snow, not necessarily Louisiana. The biggest thing of running any cold weather race, regardless of the terrain, is to layer up, as Victor's saying. One of the things we've always learned down here in South Louisiana is it doesn't matter what time of the year it is. Your early morning could be a little dewy, could be a little damp. Wear an old shirt that you can throw away. If it's over your tank top, you're running shorts. The biggest thing about cold weather racing is the energy it takes to warm your body until you start moving. You don't want to waste that, as Victor just mentioned. If you can layer up like he's suggesting, and you don't want to lose those items. If it's a really cool wind resistant jacket, water repellent jacket, tie it around your waist. You're going to come down, you won't lose it. But also remember, too, a lot of these races will have like gear check bags, right? Gear check
Yes. Yeah.
locations. So remember that you always have those options, and the race organizer will let you know. Remember to always layer up, because if you can stay as effectively warm as you can prior to moving, and moving in your race. And those first 2 miles, your body's warming up a lot. You're going to start to shred those extra layers, extra gloves if you have them, extra things around your head, extra things around your chest so you can breathe a little bit easier. Halfway through that half marathon, you could probably be down to, a thermal, maybe a light jacket. The key is know where you want to put it, and if you can throw it away on the street, it will go to someone, and that shirt may walk back at you at, later in the day. But the biggest thing is that please remember that, y'all. Don't waste that energy, as Victor's saying. It's very, very important. I've done it many, many times, running in 20-degree weather and stripping down to that last maybe layer or two and feeling really good at the end of the race because I haven't used my energy prior to starting my run. So that's a very, very key point.
Yes, absolutely right. The next thing that I would mention is probably uh, working out those muscles. So doing the strength training is specifically for your quads and the muscles that are you're going to be using, because you do use different muscles than when you run a flat or an uphill or a rolling hill marathon or
Right,
race.
right,
So um, strength training and some plyometrics, especially
right, right.
simulating that, because what you're doing is practically when you're running a race where it's pretty steep downhill, you're kind of jumping
Hmm.
every time you take a step.
Right.
So to simulate that, you can jump like in the stairs, keep
Mhm.
jumping down, do a few reps of jumping down, maybe with one leg and then the other leg, just to get used to that pounding on your quads.
Right.
Mm,
Plyometric exercises, for those of you that might not be familiar with the term, if you they're like a dynamic, almost like it's a dynamic exercise. It's almost a jump run exercise. You're doing a lot of real quick motions, but you're also doing the jumps basically. So if you do some jump squats or box jumps, if you go to a gym, those would be considered plyometric exercises. The biggest thing to partner with that as you're preparing for the downhill running is going to be some of your agility drills as well, but you want to incorporate the plyometrics, the dynamic jumps, where your body can start to become accustomed to that kind of movement, that kind of impact, because it is a little bit different downhill. But also, too, it does help you with your speed and your power. You want to keep that strength and agility intact as you're learning how to do this kind of distance at that kind of angle, right? At that kind of decline.
yes.
And so it does help to continue with those kind of things, because basically, Victor, what that's going to do is work on the core, which you always want to have a really good strong core. It's going to work on your quads, probably get your knees in pretty good shape to run that way, because your knees are going to take a lot of abuse. But also, don't
Yes.
think about it. Your back muscles, your kind of glute muscles, your hamstrings, they're going to take a different motion too in a downhill race, and all of these will help condition them and strengthen them so you can be successful and enjoy the race and not be so exhausted and so fatigued. And also remember too, a lot of reasons to do that is to help prevent any kind of serious injuries to those muscles and tendons as you're running. You're going to be fatigued. You're going to have lactic acid buildup. You should be tired. Everything should be sore when you finish that race, right?
Yes.
But if you can prevent the injury part of that, then you can recover, recuperate, get everything hydrate, get everything back where your next ability, your next time to go run, you'll be enjoying it. Your body won't be so sore and so hurt that you can't get back to enjoyable running. So that's a key point to do the supplemental strength exercises, Victor. Great bringing that up. That's important.
Yes. And what we did that's important for our listeners to hear is that I researched the most popular 10
Mm,
marathons that people use for qualifying for Boston Marathon. And it's usually the downhill marathon. Some of them are flat, some of them are not. And the idea that I had is in the next few weeks, taking one at a time and really analyzing them
mm.
in detail, how to prepare for that specific marathon, because I've done a lot of these. So our next one that's going to be coming up that people may want to start to think or even sign up right now would be the light at the end of the tunnel in North Bend, Washington, which
Oh,
is
wow,
in
okay.
June. And Adele, that race happens to be 3 times a year. It just has
Okay.
different names. So they have it in June, they'll have it in August, and then they'll have it again in September. It's
Wow.
the same
Okay.
course, just different name. They put a different name at different times of the year because it only takes about 700 participants, so it
Oh,
fills up.
okay. And how
And
long?
so it's narrow.
Yeah, and how long is that one? Is that a half marathon?
That's a full marathon.
It's a full
That is a
marathon
full
distance.
marathon. It's a downhill marathon. It's in a trail. It's in
Okay.
North Bend, Washington. So the
Wow.
next one in that, it will be in June.
Into
And then
so
it's
you.
also called the Jack and Jill, and I forgot
Oh,
what it's called in Light Tunnel Marathon. I think those are the three names. Light at the end of the tunnel, Jack and Jill Marathon, and Light Tunnel Marathon. I believe
okay.
those are the three names. And so what I'm going to do is next week I'll have the special just on the Light at the end of the tunnel
Okay. Okay.
marathon, what you can expect, where you can park, a lot of detail that are going to help you if you're thinking about it. And a lot of people are, because I had one customer who found me on YouTube when I did a special on
Hmm.
running the Light at the End of the Tunnel marathon. She flew from Texas to state of Washington to run
Uh,
that marathon, and she qualified for Boston. So I thought, oh, there is a lot of people that are interested. So for those that are interested in doing those marathons, then they want to tune in. We'll describe it in detail, the
Mhm.
things to expect at that marathon, because I've run it myself, and I definitely will get a lot more information, a lot of important information, because there is
Good,
a you
good.
do want to. For example, I got a ticket, the thing, and I kind of knew it, but I thought I forgot my cell phone. So the bus took me to the start line, but I forgot my cell phone in my car. So I took the next bus down, and I was running late. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to have to drive over there. I'll park. I don't have a permit. It's too late. The race is starting. Hopefully, I won't get a ticket. No, by the end of the race, I had a ticket. So it's important to find out
Right.
that when they say you're going to get a ticket, you're going to get a ticket.
You're gonna get a ticket. Again, that's how you prepare to run that race at that location. Know all the
Yes.
outside parts of attending that event and being a participant in it, because here's the parking, here's where you can't go, here's the bathrooms, here's the water stops. So just be
Yeah.
ready, y'all. Know what your route is. Know what kind of surface you're running on, if it's like an asphalt or a trail, gravel, whatever. But also know when you get there what you have to do and how to get there. That's a quick
Absolutely. And
how to
if
avoid
they're
a ticket.
listening to this one, write in the comments what your experience has been, because that's the other thing. I'm going to gather as much information from other participants and how they found it, because there are a few things that you have to prepare. The tunnel marathon, of course, by the name of it, you actually run in a tunnel that's dark. So there's a
Wow.
few things to consider, like taking a lamp, uh,
Right, right. The
getting
headlamp.
preparing for your watch not working as well, because inside the tunnel your
Ah,
GPS is not going to work as good. So if you can,
right,
eh, if you can stick to a pacer, that would be ideal, because your GPS is going to malfunction a little bit.
right. You won't have the energy to get it. What would be a couple of other ones that you might be interested in talking about later on, that maybe in another area of the country that would have some downhill?
Absolutely. So the other one that I've done is Rebel Mount Charleston,
Okay.
which is that one is in April.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that one will probably cover later on, because it's probably too late. If you were going to consider it, you should already be training for that
Right.
one.
Right. Right. Right.
That's
Right.
coming up. California International Marathon, that is not necessarily a downhill, but it is a fast marathon.
Okay.
That one, I'll definitely get a lot more information when we get close to it. We'll discuss the details on that one.
Okay.
Then there's the Mesa Marathon in February. There's a Mounting to the Beach. Now, I used to live in
Ooh,
Ventura. I have not ran this marathon, but this one goes from up in Ojai, and you run it all the way down to the beach in Ventura.
oh
It's
wow,
a
that has to be
downhill,
beautiful.
very popular. Lots of people who qualify for the Boston Marathon. Definitely one that you want to practice some downhill racing before you do that one, but expect to PR on that one
Yeah,
haven't done
definitely.
if you haven't done downhill races.
So I have a question for you, because we're bringing up the qualifications for the Boston Marathon. Do you remember if there's a time frame? If you say I would be running a marathon this month in February, and I meet my qualifying time, would I be eligible for the race in April, or would I be eligible for 2026? Do you remember when you qualified? There's a time frame to
Yeah,
qualify, but there's also a time frame for how long your qualification is
I
valid.
think it's for the next 2 years, but don't quote
Okay.
me on it. And I'll have that information on the next week. But I know that for example, the downhill marathon in Light Tunnel Marathon, which is in September, it's one of the last ones that, like,
Oh,
it's right
okay.
before the deadline to qualify for next year's
Okay.
um,
Okay. Well, good. For
Boston
anybody
Marathon.
interested in that, Victor can you can find out what, just kind of a quick rundown of what qualifying times are if you are interested in doing any of these, especially in the next 6 months to qualify for the 2026 Boston. Please message us on our podcast messages, especially make it attention to Victor because he knows what he's talking about regarding the Boston Marathon. He can get that information and we can put it out for everybody or specifically to you. And remember, y'all, one of the things too, and I know we have maybe one or two more topics we wanted to discuss. Um, the biggest thing would be please use our wisdom and experience. If you want to train and plan and it's your first time doing this, obviously Victor has a good experience in downhill racing, especially those distances you might be interested in. Let us know if we can provide a coaching platform for you, all the different things. Remember, we do a free call. It's free to you to talk to either Victor or myself or both of us on what your goals might be, how you want to go about your training plan. We can definitely set that up, talk to you about our different platforms. Make sure you let us know. We'd love to get you started and be successful on your journey. So don't forget about that now. We're always here for you. So.
Absolutely. Yes. And is there other details that we forgot or mentioned? But if they are, they're definitely going to be covered next week on the Light at the End of the Tunnel Marathon. We're going to discuss a lot of details on that specific marathon and how to prepare for it. So stay tuned on that one. Don't
Yeah.
forget to comment. Mm,
I think the last couple of things might be just to recap a little bit. Remember, if you are intending to do this kind of race and you're used to flat running, make sure that you check out um, what the terrain's going to be in your surroundings. That's one big thing because then you can start to get the kind of equipment you need. If you need a pair of trail running shoes, if you need some toe cushioning items, if you need to learn how to lace and relace shoes depending on where you're training, those are all the key things. We can help you with that. We can maybe direct you to your local specialty stores as well that might be supportive of some of the things we're bringing to your attention. Also look at what your training plan is, what not just the running but also your strength and your endurance. You also want to make sure you look at your nutrition and hydration. What kind of climate, what time of year, what's the temperature like, how will you adjust all of that to be successful in this new adventure in running. So that's going to be kind of a recap of some of the things we already presented to you as well as some of the specifics. But look at all of that, let us know if you need any other information on it, and we'll be attending addressing a lot of that when Victor talks to you a little bit more about some of the more specific races, the terrains, and what you should expect when you do it. So that would be great.
awesome. Thank you. Yes. And don't forget that you can always reach us if you have a question, post it on the comments below and we'll get back to you with an answer or we'll find the answer for you. And you can always contact us.
Mhm.
Uh, Thank you for tuning in. Until next week, please run your best life.
Run your best life, enjoy it, and please make sure that if it's not worth doing, you're going to want to start running because it's going to make every day of your life a little bit more enjoyable. Get out there, move your body, get going. Use your heart, your soul, your mind, your spirit. That's what we'd love to share with y'all. It's been a pleasure again, Victor. I love you, my
Thank
friend.
you. My pleasure. Love you too. See you guys next week.
See you next week. Stay tuned for more downhill running information.
Bye.